we'll talk about the development of the concept of the atomic structure. Chapter 1, Lesson 1. The historical development of atomic structure concept will be discussed. The first one is Democritus. The Democritus idea, or the Democritus, he imagined the possibility of dividing any piece of matter to smaller parts, then dividing those smaller parts into smaller particles, and so on, until an indivisible fragment is obtained. He named it atom. Atom means A means no, tom means divide. So atoms, the particles that can't be divided into smaller parts. Second one, Aristotle or Aristo, he rejected the former concept of atom, and he believed that any matter is composed of four components, which are water, dust, air, and fire. And it was believed that cheap metals can convert it into precious ones, we can convert copper to gold by changing the proportions of those four constituents. And in this time, the scientists were so busy to change the cheap metals into precious ones. So Democritus said the possibility of dividing any piece of matter to smaller parts, then dividing those smaller parts into smaller particles, and so on, till obtain indivisible part that called atom. Aristo rejected the former concept of atom, and he believed that any matter is consist of four components, which are water, dust, fire, and air. And he was believed that the cheap metals can convert it into precious one by changing the proportions of the component of these four elements. Number 3, Boyle idea. As we know, the matter is classified into pure and mixture, and the pure matter is classified into simple and complex. Simple, just one element or just one atom, like hydrogen, sodium, oxygen, chlorine, and it's constant by time in all places. Like what? When the oxygen in our room is different from the oxygen in the next room? No, of course not. It's constant in all places by all the time. So pure matter or simple pure matter, it's constant and it consists of just only one element. Complex or compound, like water, H2O, it's not one atom, it's more than one atom. And carbon dioxide, CO2, it's called a compound. So matter, pure or mixture. Pure, simple or compound. Simple, just one element. Complex, more than one element, but it's constant. Water, it's constant in all places. Carbon dioxide, it's constant in all places. Mixture, it's a composition of compound and compound. Like what? Like water plus an ECl. Mixture or mixing of two compounds. So, Boyle, he gave the first definition of the element. Element is a pure, simple substance that can't be changed to smaller or simpler form by the traditional chemical methods. So element is a simple substance that can't be changed to simpler form by traditional methods. Number 4, Dalton model. We have main postulates of Dalton. The first one, the element is composed of very minute particles. So what the meaning of minute? Minute equal very small particles or tiny particles that named atoms. Number 2, the atom is very minute indivisible solid particle. But he was wrong in solid particle. We will said in the next video or in the ending of the video. Okay, so the first postulate of Dalton, the element is composed of very minute particles that called atoms. The atoms is very minute and the visible part, and it was solid particle, but he was wrong. Okay, the masses, number 3, the masses of atoms of same element are similar, but they differ from one element to another. I mean to point this sentence that when I compare between the mass of sodium and the mass of other atom of sodium, they are same. The mass of sodium 23 and the mass of other sodium is 23. But when I compare the mass of sodium with the mass of chlorine, it isn't same mass number. The atom of sodium 23 and the mass of chlorine 35.5, so it's different. Okay, number 4 in the postulates of Dalton. Compounds. The compounds are formed by the combination of atoms of different elements. By simple numerical ratio. What the mean by simple numerical ratio? When I said CO2, the ratio between carbon and oxygen is 1 to 2. Number of carbons atom is equal 1. Number of oxygen atom is equal 2. Number 5, Thomson model of atom. Thomson was discovered electricity, and he had discovered the cathode ray. It was known that gases don't conduct electricity at the normal conditions of pressure and temperature. Now we wanna make gases conduct electricity, so we need a special conditions to conduct electricity. Number 1, we must put a tube, putting a tube that having hydrogen, like for example a hydrogen gas, and we put external battery that having high electric high voltage or high difference potential, like 10,000 voltage. As we know, the rays goes from high potential to low potential as heat transfer. As we know from the law 3, the heat transfer from high temperature or high temperature to lower temperature, as in batteries, the rays goes from high potential difference to low potential difference. Batteries are called, they was later known as
electrons. Nowadays,
we will see a stream of invisible rays will be emitted from the cathode or the negative pole, causing a fluorescent glow on heating the tube pole. These rays were named cathode ray. And it was later known that these rays are composed of minute particles that named electrons. Okay. So we have a tube. Inside the tube we have hydrogen gas, any gas you want, and external and it affected external with high voltage. For example, it around 10,000 volt. We found that a stream of invisible ray will emitted from the cathode or the negative pole, causing fluorescent glow, and these rays are called electrons. The properties of cathode ray, they are formed of negative charge that called electrons. They move in a straight line. They have a thermal effect. What the meaning of thermal effect? لو احنا عندنا لمبه في البيت وجيت احط ايدي عليها، هحس ان انا حسب thermal effect heating or everything related to heat يعني سخنة. They are affected by both electric and magnetic field. For example, لو انا عندي if I have a tube and I put a battery and and the electrons moves from negative to positive, as we know from middle grade, positive with positive making repulsion force, and positive or negative making attraction force. So when the electron moves, it attacks to positive charge. So we know that they having an electrical field. So the postulate of Thomson, he considered the atom as a solid sphere also, and he was wrong as Dalton, and having positive charge and negative charge. So the atom is electrically neutral.